the sublime Dracula, 1958. As I have been saying, Christopher Lee refused to play the Count for 7 years, giving Hammer executives an endless series of headaches. Lee fled to Italy and established himself as the leading character actor star in European horror films, making a series of extraordinary movies on the continent like the Mario Bava's The Whip and the Body, while continuing to play non-vampire, usually supporting roles for Hammer, whose executives punished the actor by giving him lesser roles and giving the lead parts to, well, much less talented thespians. The return to Christopher Lee's most famous role, Count Dracula, after years of negotiation, was greeted by Christopher Lee with somewhat mixed emotions. Dracula, Prince of Darkness, 1965. This is directed by Terence Fisher. Fisher opted for an unsettling combination of graphically gruesome violence and lusciously poetic atmosphere, which gives this movie a sense of stylish formalism, with the emphasis on how the story is told, rather than taking the more direct approach. A group of travelers arrive at Castle Dracula, where the Count's servant, played by Philip Latham, revives his master, Count Dracula, by hanging one of the guests, Alan, played by Charles Tingwell, upside down over the tomb containing Dracula's ashes. The Count's servant, Latham, then slits his throat, the throat of Alan, Charles Tingwell, and drains the blood from him. Dracula's Prince of Darkness develops one of a series of creative ways to resurrect the dead Count Dracula that will become increasingly elaborate as the Dracula Hammer series progresses. This first resurrection sequence is filled with hallucinatory beauty, as bright colors and swirling mists emphasize the overwhelming physicality of this ritual death, which allows Tingwell's lifeblood to be released as pure energy, making Count Dracula, Christopher Lee, swell into a blood-engorged body dedicated to the pursuit of sensual pleasure. The females in the film, Suzanne Farmer and the great Barbara Shelley, basically become martyrs to Count Dracula's desires and are subjected to horrible violence by the forces of Christianity, represented by Father Zandor, played by Andrew Keir. Father Zandor, Keir, is a no-nonsense personality and a worthy substitute for Cushing's Van Helsing. Terence Fisher's prowling camera effectively sustains the movie's disturbing atmosphere, while the story pays more attention to characterization than to special effects. Barbara Shelley, a forgotten scream queen, gives the best performance of her considerable career as the straight-laced and repressed Helen, who is transformed by Count Dracula, Christopher Lee, into a demonically sensuous and seductive woman, who is eventually staked, metaphorically raped by Father Zandor, Andrew Keir, and his group of vampire hunter monks. Dracula, Prince of Darkness, is a worthy sequel, memorable for Christopher Lee's impressive performance and for the graphic impaling of Barbara Shelley. All right, with that thought, we're going to end part 2 of God Rock Radio's epic 4-part exploration of the gothic horror, fantasy, and science fiction film legacy of the great Christopher Lee and the great Peter Cushing. Part 3 will be available on our website in about 2 weeks. And we'll begin with Peter Cushing bringing the beloved BBC TV character Doctor Who to the silver screen in Doctor Who and the